Hi, I'm Siege from the Puma podcast team. If you like listening to this show and others created by our team, you can help us keep making them through our Pumapatak tip jar. Our goal is to get 100 of you, our friends, to make a contribution and show your support for the journalism and storytelling that we do. We're happy to keep making shows that you can listen to for free, but making them isn't free, so we appreciate any support you send our way. All you need to do is to go to pumapodcast.com where you'll find a link to the Pumapatak tip jar.
Hi, I'm Bella Perez Rubio, Puma Podcast, and you're listening to Teka Teka News. Balitang thinking, hindi breaking. In this episode,
the goal of freezing his assets in the US is to cripple the operation, so to speak, no? To prevent him from using the resources of his church to finance his criminal activity. That's the whole point of freezing the assets. So obviously, it should hamper or hinder the operations of his church because that's exactly the point.
the US imposes financial sanctions on Kingdom of Jesus Christ Church founder Apollo Quiboloy over alleged human rights abuses, including rape and human trafficking. The freeze on his assets was announced by the Treasury and State Departments on December 9, International Anti-Corruption Day. It was also the eve of International Human Rights Day. Former President Rodrigo Duterte's spiritual advisor has been on the FBI's most wanted list since February.
If you turn the page, it says for more than a decade, Apollo Quiboloy engaged in serious human rights abuse, including a pattern of systematic and pervasive rape of girls as young as 11.
That's Hawaii-based lawyer Michael J. Green, general counsel to Quiboloy's church, reading from statements released by the U.S. Treasury and State Departments. U.S. authorities go on to claim that Quiboloy perpetrated these crimes against pastorals or young women in his church from 2006 to at least 2020.
Who says so? They've already convicted him. What country am I living in?
Attorney Green was speaking, by the way, on SMNI, the pro-administration network that Quiboloy owns.
That's an argument that's naturally made by a defense lawyer, no? But the thing is, my answer to that is simple. It's provided by law, it's allowed by their law, it's allowed by their constitution.
That's Attorney Michael Yusinko, a lecturer at the UANP Institute of Law.
There is no declaration of guilt or innocence because it's still part of the court proceedings, the criminal court proceedings. So I don't know if that argument will pass muster in a court of law. It's part of a broader law enforcement framework. And the remedy of freezing the assets of the accused is just one of those options available to law enforcement so that they can have an immediate stop, at least a way to slow down, if not immediately stop the criminal activities being committed.
During that same press conference, Quiboloy's lawyer also accused the U.S. of singling out the televangelist while turning a blind eye to other crimes.
We're still paying Russia for oil and gas. What is he talking about, human rights? We've ignored every single human right in every country since this president has been in office. I'm embarrassed. You see what's happened worldwide, and the United States has done nothing, and they come after the pastor? Shameful. Shame on them.
Here's what Yusinko had to say about that.
It's laying the predicate for an argument that they will likely make in the proceedings in the US kasi one of the ways to defeat an extradition petition is to show that the criminal activities or the criminal complaints or indictments against you are politically motivated.
Talk of extradition started as soon as news of these sanctions broke. But Justice Secretary Boying Remulla told reporters this week that the US has yet to issue an arrest warrant or an extradition request for Quiboloy.
Hindi naman ito mabilis eh. Marami pang mangyayari dito. They still have to file the necessary cases. Inuna lang nila yata itong freezing of the assets. So wait and see lang tayo.
Still, Yusinko says a request for extradition is definitely on the table.
The crimes involved are so heinous, they're so serious. I'd be surprised if there was no clamor from the US public, from the US politicians to push for the extradition. No?
We'll pause here. But when we return, more on the extradition process and why it's so complicated.
This issue is very challenging for the current administration. Extradition matters always impact foreign relations. No? So it's going to be challenging in the sense that this involves the US, no? And it involves corruption as well as the subject matter here is a political figure.
But how exactly does extradition work?
The first step is for the requesting state, which is the US. They will file the request with the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, so not the DOJ. So the law requires the requesting state to basically to provide a legal brief as to why that subject should be extradited to the US. And the law puts the responsibility of reviewing those documents, that legal case, on the DFA.
If the DFA decides that the request fits all the requirements under our extradition treaty with the US and our own extradition laws, then the DOJ will have to file a petition in court for a warrant.
The DOJ really has no choice. Once they get the endorsement from the Foreign Affairs and the endorsement says, yes, this person can be extradited, they have to file the petition in court. They have no authority to say no. They don't have that authority under the law. So once they get that, they need to file the petition in court and see the petition through until the extradition order either is dismissed by the court or granted by the court.
This was confirmed by Secretary Remulla to reporters this week.
We're waiting by the sidelines kung ano ang magiging action nila. We're looking at the cases to be filed. We're waiting for things to happen on our end. Kaya sa atin naman kasi we have a treaty with them. We have to abide by the terms and conditions of our agreements with our friends from abroad.
But Attorney Yusinko says there is something local authorities should do in the meantime.
There is actually a criminal case or a criminal indictment against the pastor in the Philippines. No, it was filed in Davao, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it is presently pending with the DOJ.
The Justice Department confirmed that cases were filed against Quiboloy in 2020, accusing him of the same crimes: trafficking, rape, and child abuse. They were dismissed due to lack of evidence, but the DOJ in 2021 said they were reviewing them after Quiboloy's indictment in the US.
It is of interest to the DOJ to also look into the US case to determine if there's a connection. The reason why I would say the DOJ has interest in looking into the US case, not just because of the extradition or the possible extradition, but the reason is there is already a pending criminal case with the DOJ. No? So it's only responsible of them to determine if there's a connection. No? At least that.
And of course, this issue is more than just about the legal system. Quiboloy is a figure who looms large on the national stage. The tandem he endorsed won the 2 highest offices in the country earlier this year. The only presidential debate attended by Marcos Jr. was hosted by Quiboloy's network. Yusinko, who's also a political analyst, says the televangelist's continued influence is worth reviewing too.
It needs to poke the consciousness of the voters, no, that this is a political figure that wields influence in our politics. We have to ask the tough questions here, di ba? Why is this person accused of such heinous crimes? Why is he so influential in our politics? Why are we allowing that? So I think that's a significant impact as well, or it should be that significant as well for us voters. Why have we allowed such a person to wield so much influence over our politicians and over a significant portion of our electorate?
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka. Again, I'm Bella Perez Rubio. This episode was produced by Kat Ventura and edited by Carl Dave Sayat. If you like this episode, share it with a friend or two. And don't forget to follow Teka Teka and Puma Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
At para sa mga mahilig manood sa YouTube, Puma Podcast na rin po kami doon. Just search Puma Podcast and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for listening.